25NL Zoom on PokerStars. Welcome to a new episode of Play and Explain. We're going to try this again. I uploaded a video yesterday and I thought everything was great in it. And then I noticed that after about 10 or 12 minutes, the sound went off. So then I had to delete it, and I'm taking a new attempt today. So let's see how this one goes, and I hope you guys can hear me well. Here, this is an interesting one. We have ace-10 off against an early position raised from a short stacker. I think this one is just a fold. Ace-10 off doesn't perform that well against an under-the-gun raise anyway. And if I 3-bet there, I risk getting 4-bet, and then I kind of have to call it off at only 24 bigs. So I don't think it would be a big mistake, but I just don't think it's worth going there, especially in such a high rake environment against a rather passive player. So decided to just fold. Here, Jack-7 off. This guy, I will, because he makes it so small, I will just call here. 4, 5, 6, 7, open ender. That's pretty good. I am just going to stab here because I can definitely call a check raise. And we just take it down. Yeah, so Jack-7 off is not really a hand I would normally call there, although it is close. But he only made it 2.5x, which means that we got such a good price. We had position, and he had pretty wide range there. Here, pocket 6s in the small blind is a fold. Yep, so the Jack-7 off there, because his range was wide and he made it small, I had an easy call. Easy raise with pocket kings, and do we get any sort of action here? We do. That is great. He is a fairly aggressive opponent. I am going to just make this 23.2. And let's see if we get even more action. He's in the deep tank. And he jams with ace-king. Okay. Well, that one didn't go well for us. So at least we'll win the second board. But yeah, we got it in well there against ace-king, but I think, yeah, that's just a cooler. Well, because he needs to get it in there, I think, with ace-king. Despite my 4-bet, in this late configuration, you can't really get away from such a hand. So I think he did okay there. Here, king, queen off. We can definitely open. I would have considered 3-betting if low jack had raised. And no action this time. King 10 off is a hand that a lot of players would open in the low jack because it looks really pretty, but it actually isn't that great. I don't even always open it in the high jack, let alone the low jack. So it's funny because a hand like King 7 suited is more of an open in the low jack than King 10 offsuit, and even King 6 suited you can sometimes open. Jack 8 suited, I can open here in the hijack. We do have someone who seems to be quite aggressive in the big blind. So here it's not the best one, but we have an open ender here. It's not the best of boards for the pre-flop aggressor, and we're up against an aggressive opponent, but here we can just take it down, which I am absolutely not unhappy about. And we get a walk with 6 high. Excellent. Ooh, pocket 10s here against this rather tight opponent. I am going to 3-bet him on the button, and I'm making it rather small because he made it pretty big. So this one is not a board that I have to c-bet 100%, but I am going to do it because I can fold out hands like King Queen suited, King Jack suited, Queen Jack suited. But he now jams, and when he jams here, after I show that much strength, I don't think there is anything I can do. I highly doubt that he does this with. I mean, he could do it with King Queen of Spades or something like that, but even that has a lot of equity against me. And if he has any sort of a spade, of an ace, sorry, that he did it with, then I'm drawing pretty thin there. So I think that's a fold. Here, this is a board that I wouldn't c-bet a lot, and I don't need much protection. Only an ace or a queen that's not a diamond will be bad for me, so I'm happy to check back there. Now I can go for a little bit of value. I can actually size up now after I checked the flop. Getting value from a diamond basically, or something like a pocket pair below the jack, but we did not get any action. Here I would have opened Jack 8 off, but not continuing against a raise. So yeah, not much happening now. So yeah, you guys can let me know what stakes you play, and also what I'm interested in finding out is how many tables do you play, because I only play this one table on screen here. Oh, this is an interesting one. Makes it big. I am going to flat this one because we're up against what seems to be a weaker player who raised to 3 big blinds, and I know we had a cold call here on the button. However, I do think that this is probably still marginally profitable just because of the weaker player there. We now flop second pair. No reason to go for a bet here. So this is a trap some players fall in. They think they have to protect here, but they won't be able to protect anyway. And now this doesn't look great, but I have to call here. But if he bets again, then I will likely fold depending on the size. But that's a line. Oh, well, that I was gonna say that's a line that is not very bluff heavy, but yeah, I mean he had a6 there. That's definitely not a crusher. So we can give him the red tag for not being a crusher. Here I'm just going for value, and I am going for small value because a straight is possible. even though he doesn't have a lot of hands here. This one, the 10 is actually not bad for me because he shouldn't have many 10s that he calls with there. However, I am still, well, I was gonna say I'm gonna go for value on the river, but the problem now is that that's getting super thin at this point, so I rather check. And he had ace high there. But yeah, so the 10 there, he shouldn't have a lot of 10s that he calls with, even though I only made it small on the flop. But then once the queen came as well, then I decided not to go for value. In hindsight, maybe I should have gone for value on the turn again. The problem there was that I didn't want to go small, and if I go big, then I obviously won't get called by much worse. Here I have to fold Jack 10 off. Yes, I was gonna say if you guys play as well, I would be interested how many tables you play, because on stream I only play one table at a time. Other than that, I play two. I don't really like. I used to play up to 4 of these Zoom tables at the same time, but I just made too many mistakes there. I just folded the nuts or just made some silly call downs just because I couldn't really focus very well. So I've scaled back, and I think for me at the moment 2 is my sweet spot, but when I do the play and explains, then I think 1 is just the best, not only because of the concentration factor, but also because I just think 2 tables already gets a bit trickier with the Zoom tables for you to follow. At least that's when I watch someone do that. It's not impossible, obviously, to follow, but it's just not that great. So 1 table is the right one for me here. Here, 7-6 off, not the greatest of hands, but I think this is not the greatest of players, and we have position here, and we flop second pair. So we'll definitely gonna call here with second pair, but don't think there's much reason to raise. So don't have a lot of stats in him here. This is, I mean, we're just bluff catching here, but he's basically telling us that he's got a really strong hand. So I am going to go for the call again here. If he bets again, I mean, he still has a lot of air. And now he checks, and obviously I am checking behind, and yeah, that's exactly what I thought. He just had so much air there, small blind opening range, not filtered at all. That's a spot where you have to close your eyes and call that big turn bet, even though I was absolutely not loving it. Here, ace-5 suited is about the bottom of my 3-betting range, and this is a board that I am going to c-bet rather small. We get called, so this is a very tight player, and at this point, if I bet again, I don't think that I will have a lot of worse hands that call. Here, he is a very tight player, and I don't expect to be good a lot, but on the other hand, I still have to call here with my top pair. Unfortunately, we do make 2 pair ourselves, but that's not going to help us. So if he has a better raise, we will lose. And at this point, I just don't think that he bluffs twice here, and we don't really beat much else. So he, at this point, will lose to a better ace, will lose to a jack, obviously, will lose to a set of 7s, which is a boat, and will lose to hearts. So unfortunately, I have to let this one go. So lost quite a bit in this hand. But he snap called pre-flop and then snapped on the flop. Then he bet the turn. I wonder whether I should have folded there, but I still had top pair. I just couldn't fold there. Here I will 3-bet this one. But if the small blind 3-bets, which is the case, this is not a spot that I love, but in this late configuration, I will just cold 4-bet here. Because the small blind can have a fairly wide 3-betting range against a button open, even if it's 3 big blinds. That makes it a little bit more of a value 3-bet. Okay, and now he jams. And against the jam, I'm out here, so ace queen suited is not a hand that I would want to call off, even in this late configuration, because I don't think Pool will 5-bet jam against a cold 4-bet with a hand that is worse than pocket jacks. And even pocket jacks, I don't really think that he will do that with, which means that I think he has ace king, aces, kings, or queens. And some players won't even find the jam with ace king or queens, and then if that's only aces and kings and some ace king and some queens, then we are doing pretty poorly there. I still think the 4-bet, the cold 4-bet was fine there. Here I was gonna continue, but not against the 4x raise. I have to tighten up my range there. Yeah, so sadly we lost quite a bit of money in 2 or 3, was I think 2 3-bet pots, and then this other one. Here against this guy, he doesn't like folding much to c-bets, but we are persuasive enough here on this one. So I've tried to increase my c-bet percentage because I noticed that I was a bit low on that. I would not have c-bet if I didn't have good backdoors or anything, like on this one here where I had king 9 of spades, a 10 high board, no spades there. But then again, I still had an overcard and his range didn't connect very well to that board, and on top of that we had a backdoor straight draw, so I thought that was good enough to c-bet, and I c-bet big, which I would do on a 10 high board even though it wasn't connected. So I'm happy that I found that c-bet in that spot. 10-5 off here, not going to continue. Queen jack off. Yeah, I mean, it's so low when he only folds 36% to 3 bets. So I think it's best to let that one go. Pocket kings, that will most likely be a continue. Let's hope we don't just get a walk. No, we do not. That is excellent. And ooh, look at this one here. This is interesting. So I will just cold 4-bet again here. So I'll make it just over 20. And I think, I mean, this guy now might shove, but he doesn't. So this is what I had hoped in the hand before when I had ace queen suited, that they would just all fold, but it wasn't the case. And unfortunately, when I had the kings, I got quick folds from both players when I cold 4-bet. But As I said, I still think the ace-queen suited was an okay play, even though don't expect to print money in that spot, but you can expect to make a little profit. Not if you get 5-bet jammed, though. And we're getting another walk. Yay. So 18-15 are my stats now over 92 hands. That's a bit on the lower side for me, although it didn't feel like I was dealt so many bad hands. Pocket tens. We are obviously going to open. And call 10. Tens on this board is definitely a hand that I will c-bet because we need protection here. If an ace, a king, a queen, or a jack comes, we definitely need protection. And here, this guy doesn't. Let's see. He does check raise a bit, so definitely calling. Calling again if he fires a big one here. Yeah, I mean, we might well be dead here, but I still think I have to call this one. And if he triples it now, I will probably have to fold. Yes, there are some draws that bricked, however, it is really only the heart. And let's see what they say about him here. Overpair and no draw. Raise flop c-bet with overpair, without overpair or less. No, with overpair or less and no draw. I still think I have to. This is very, very tricky one. I think he is capable of bluffing here, but on the other hand, I just think pool in general doesn't check raise, then bet big on the turn, and then jam. So, yeah, let me know if you would have called there. Although in hindsight, I mean, it's easy to say now that you would have. We didn't get to see what he had, but I just think pool in general is too nitty. And that specific player maybe wasn't too nitty, but I was still not convinced that he would take such a line with a bluff. And the problem is that the only real bluffs that he had, unless he had a complete airball, were missed flush draws, and a lot of regs actually don't like bluffing big with flush draws. So here I'm gonna check for a third time, just hoping that he takes a stab after all, because the board just got worse and I didn't really have much. So he had ace high here. Okay, I don't. Maybe he would have called if I had block bet the river, but I think it was a little thin there with third pair, no kicker. Anyway, yeah, so I don't think pool regs in this pool like to jam the river with a hand that contains two hearts on a missed heart draw. And if he doesn't have that, well, then I don't really know what he has that would bluff there. And that was the reason why I folded in the end. And it's different on the turn. On the turn, pool would continue barreling with a flush draw. But anyway, we unfortunately lost another medium-sized pot there. But I still think it was a good fold. Queen 8 off, not good enough to continue here. King, queen. So this is a board that's not that great for us, so I will still c-bet, but I will still c-bet small here. That's also because he shouldn't connect extremely well with this one. We do get check raised now by a player who is rather tight, and yes, king high should, in theory, maybe continue, but he also made it fairly big, so I will just fold here. Even though it was close, but just don't expect, if you call there, don't expect to print money. So it's not a bad hand, but to continue with, and I might have made a mistake there by folding, like tiny mistake, but so here I think I will just check. Yeah, I might have made a tiny mistake, but I don't think it was if it was one, it was a small one, because you don't make a lot of money by calling, and you don't lose a lot of money by folding. Okay, well now we have top full house, and I think this is another one of those where I am going to be greedy. I'm going to overbet because I so underwrap my hand here, and if he has any sort of a pocket pair, I think that he would look me up. I would have preferred for something else to come on the river rather than a 7, because I think we were good all the way. But I just wanted to check twice there, because if he has an ace, then it's likely that he has an ace that is bigger than mine. And if he doesn't have an ace, I can't get a lot of value out of him. So this is a prime example of, well, is it actually? No, okay, no, I will just call. I was gonna squeeze there, but then I decided that I don't want to inflate the pot that much, and here I have to fold. The thing is, like, that was a really good squeezing spot there. However, I would have had to make it so big, and if I get called, then the SPR is quite small, and I have 9 high. So I think it's better not to. It would have been a good squeeze spot with a hand like king queen offsuit or something like that. Yeah, so with the ace 10 there, I just don't think that I could have gotten out a lot of value out of him. And I find then the best line to take is to just overbet the river if he is really passive, because that's only one street, and even though it is an overbet, because a lot of players will just think that with an ace I would have bet at some point, so they level themselves into calling. I had something like that in a recent play and explain. And here, well, he makes it so small that unfortunately I have to call here in position. And this is not great for us, because now we're only really winning against ace-king, but I do have to continue with my top pair. And now we're not winning against ace-king either, and he keeps barreling, and he makes it small, but the issue is now, yeah, I can't turn this into a bluff against kings, and it's way too risky. I lose against aces, queens, and ace-king now, and so I have to fold once again. Yeah, so I had that in a recent play and explain where I overbet in a very similar spot with a pair of aces there in a 3-bet pot, and I got snapped off by pocket nines because he just wouldn't believe me that I played an ace so passively. And this is what I tried today here as well, but it didn't work out this time. Yeah, so today I've not been running good in these bigger pots. I'll have to have a good look at them as well, just to see if I potentially made a mistake there, because I'm never shy to admit mistakes. I know that I make loads of them, and everyone who claims that they don't make loads of mistakes are basically liars, because in poker, every player, including the best in the world, make a lot of mistakes. And that's just the nature of the game. Ace-10 suited will be either a raise or a 3-bet. So 3-bet it is. Going to 10x now because he made it 2.3 and we're only 100 big blinds deep. Sometimes I make this 11, but I think 10 is big enough here. We get called, so this is definitely a spot where I can go for a small c-bet. We have a lot of kings in our range, and here now we just have to continue. I am gonna go with a 2/3 bet now, as the flop is as the turn brought in the flush draw, and now we have a flush draw and a gut shot and one overcard. So we'll have to think if he calls, and unfortunately everything bricks here. However, I still think I have to go for the triple here, even though I do have 2 hearts and I don't like that, and he snap folds this one. So yeah, it is a spot where I don't love having, well, I love having the aces, but the previous one, yeah, it was a spot where I didn't, no action with aces. I didn't love that I had 2 hearts in my hand, because that blocks his auto folds there. However, I don't know, like there aren't a lot of, oh, sorry, now I just need to raise this one with my ace blocker. Yeah, so ace-10 of hearts was basically, I blocked a lot of his auto folds. However, I just didn't think that he would have a lot of those. So I think what he called with there was more a hand that had a queen, or maybe even king jack, king 10, something like that, where I think that he would fold to a triple barrel, because pool just doesn't triple barrel bluff enough. So whilst I blocked a lot of his auto folds, I also had a good chance of folding out some decent hands. So here, I think this might be light, but I mean, I only have ace high with a backdoor flush draw, so no point in continuing against a big bet. Here we're getting 3-bet, and this is a close one. In GTO land, I think it's just about positive to call, and I will call here, and this is not an amazing flop. However, he should c-bet this one very small, or check for that matter. That's also fine. I am happy to just check again, because he might have checked lot. So this is indicative of him having something like jacks through kings here or some weak ace. And I don't think I can get any of those to fold unless maybe with a big overbet, but... Oh, king 10. Okay, well, yeah. Would he have folded king 10 if I had bet there? Maybe, yeah, but I just don't. Yeah, I think he would probably still have looked me up. I would have had to really go big, which I could have done, which probably would have been the better play now that I'm thinking back, because basically I didn't have any showdown value there. Like, he would have had to give up with a hand like king jack of clubs rather than king 10 of clubs, like the king jack, king queen, something like that. When I think it's unlikely that he, with such a hand, that he wouldn't have tried to stab at any point to win the hand by making me fold. So basically I should have known that I didn't have any showdown value, which basically I knew, but I just thought that I couldn't get him to fold even a hand like king 10 or pocket jacks or something like that. Here we are going to go for a 3-bet with our pocket tens. If we get 4-bet, I would have called. Now I am on that end of the spectrum here, and I will go 3 big blinds here, because I still have a lot of good hands in my range. Okay, what do we beat now at this point? Probably not a lot, and he now goes for the donk here, which is a bit weird, but I just don't think this is much of a bluff. And if it's not a bluff, I mean, is it pocket 9s or pocket 8s? I just think I have to fold here. This is annoying. It's very unusual to see someone donk here, but like, what does he donk with? So we lost a pot with pocket 9s, we lost a pot with pocket 10s. Now we're having another attempt with pocket 9s. And we do win this one, although not a very big one. So 7-6 suited. This could be a hand that we can 3-bet. Well, not a hand we can 4-bet cold. Yeah, so suited connectors are hands that you can 3-bet bluff with in the big blind. Ace jack off against a raise here, 3-bet from the big blind, especially from a tight player, is unfortunately just a fold. Pool doesn't 3-bet bluff enough from the big blind, because it is hands like 7-6 suited that they usually just call with. And then if you combine that with a player who doesn't 3-bet a lot anyway, because he was only 3-betting 5% of the time, so all of that makes me think that even hands that are supposed to call there, in theory, are folds, and ace jack off is a fold even in theory, so definitely a fold in practice. Here I could consider, I am actually going to 3-bet this one, because he has a high fold to 3-bet percentage here. And yep, getting it down, taking it down again. So king queen off, I don't even know the theory. I would have to look it up what king queen off really does in that spot. I imagine it will mix between calling and a little bit of 3-betting, but it made it a clear 3-bet for me once I saw that button folds to 3-bets a lot. And there was, I mean, sample size wasn't huge, but he had folded 8 out of 11, and it's now 9 out of 12. So that is indicative of someone who just folds too much to 3-bets. Potentially because he's opening too wide. But either way, in that scenario, king queen off becomes an easy 3-bet. So we're going to play for another 5 minutes or so before we wrap it up. And make sure to watch until the end because I'm going to reveal my stats for today to see how we're doing. Probably not doing super well because we just had a few bigger pots that unfortunately we had to fold. So here I will just flat this with my pocket threes. And look at this, we flop pretty well. I'm going to check raise here. Was thinking of just leading out. But yeah, that's exactly why I want to check raise, and I'm going to make it something like 11. Big blind folds. And I think if he has an ace now, we will probably stack him. Just trying to think what to do now. Going something like this. Looks right. And obviously now going for stacks here. With only 31.2 behind, I'm just letting it look like it. I'm thinking whether to bluff or not. And then I'm gonna choose a really big bluffy size. And we get called by an ace. Excellent. This one worked out very well. And it would have been absolutely criminal if I hadn't got stacks in against, what was he, 50 or 55 big blind stack that led out with his ace there. And that was the reason why I check raised rather than bet, because it would have been a bit trickier to get all the money in if I had bet. I would have been able to do it with over bets then, but like this, it just felt pretty good against such a player to do it. And here, well, we don't really have a lot going for our hand, but we have a nice range advantage. And now I am going to go for an overbet here. Can we go for an overbet? We can't really go for an overbet because Queen 10. Well, and at this point, I still think I have to triple barrel this one. And I think I can get him to fold a king at this point. Possibly even an ace, although I think an ace will look me up. But we get it through. Yeah, so the reason why I triple barreled there was exactly because I think that pool doesn't triple barrel bluff enough, and the ranges were quite wide, which is why he should look me up light, but he might not do that. Here I have to check pretty much range on this board out of position. And when he checks behind, I mean, I'm still gonna check behind, check again here. And he makes it small now. I have ace high, but I just don't think I don't think he would do this with queen jack or something like that. So I am going to fold. Yeah, so on this hand here, this was actually really an interesting one. So here obviously I was at the bottom of my range, and he might have had clubs that are auto folds. And yes, it's not amazing. Let me just think here. I think this one is. I'm just gonna fold here. So he had some auto fold. He had auto folds there with the clubs, and then he would sometimes fold an ace. He would probably fold a king or a jack, and I think he might have had a hand like queen, jack, or something like that. Here, just thinking what to do. I can raise. This guy doesn't fold, doesn't seem to like folding to 3-bets a lot. I do not like the cold 4-bet at all, but at the same time I cannot fold here, and so I will have to call. Just taking my time. Calling, and this is exactly not the kind of board that I like, because I lose to ace king now. I lose to kings anyway. I lose to pocket jacks in case you decide to 4-bet those. And what I do beat is ace queen, which I block heavily. He makes it quite big now, but unfortunately I have to fold. This is not a hand that I can do much on that board, and I just doubt that he raised his 4-bet, cold 4-bet light there with a hand like ace 5 suited it. But even if that were the case, he would be ahead now, and I doubt that he would have done it with 5-6 suited or 9-10 suited or something like that. Here, can we double barrel this one? I think we can, even though we don't have much going for us, but big blind could have called there very light on the flop, so a double barrel sometimes does the trick. Here, this is actually a good player here who is very tight, and now we're getting squeezed. Can't do much with king queen off. Okay, so this will be my last orbit now. And then we will, look at this here. Jack deuce is still way too bad, even for a min click from the small blind. I hate folding in that spot, but that is about pretty much about the one of the worst hands that I could have, and one of the very few hands that I will fold there. Here, this is that super tight player that I mentioned earlier. I am going to go smallish here, very small, and even that gets the job done of him folding. But I didn't expect him to try to bluff me, which is why I just still went for a small c-bet, because if he has clubs, if he has a pocket pair, if he has a weaker ace, I will get calls there. Here, I mean, we don't have much going. And this is a spot now where I don't want to double barrel against this guy. I have king high, but it's not very great, and he's supposed to look me up, so I don't want to bet now on this river. Maybe it was a mistake not to c-bet the turn. Here I'm definitely folding now. King 8 suited. Yeah, against the 3x open, definitely just folding. King 3 is off. Well, this is it. So just my thoughts to finish them, because I didn't manage to do that on this hand here. So on the turn, yes, I have picked picked up the flush draw, which is why I continued barreling. And then on the river, yes, I did have the hearts, but I get a lot of auto folds from the clubs in his hand, plus a hand like Jack 10, for example. No, Jack 10 exactly. That was third pair, and also King 10 or something like that was third pair or second pair, and got shot by this point will fold. So this is why I decided to triple barrel there, and I got the folds. And now let's have a look here. We lost a little bit, but we did okay on the yellow line and the red line. The red line, surprisingly, is pretty bad, but I think that was because we had to fold in a few big 3 and 4 bet pots. Otherwise, this would have looked better.